keyboard on this computer. Good. And yeah, so this is is it week 1 or week 2? Because or was last week 0?
No, I would welcome everyone to week 1. I am very excited to have you all back and see your demos today and what you have worked on during the week. And today's agenda looks like that we have the demos presented by you. And after that, we will have the learning module about code reviews, following by the discussion about the issues for the next week. And yeah, so let's get started with the demos. Who wants to go first?
And basically, really quickly, sorry, Juliet, to interrupt here. Basically, what we'll just be doing for the demos is someone from each of the pairs will just maybe share their screen of like their code editor and just kind of walk everyone through what their issue was and then what their strategy was for doing it. And then, yeah, that should be good. Again, this week is pretty not super involved, so it's not going to be a lot to show, but that's kind of the general idea.
I can go ahead.
Okay, great.
Okay. Just let me know if you see my screen.
We're not seeing it yet.
Okay.
I may have to disable.
Yep, it is
okay.
disabled.
There we go. It should be. And Ibrahim is here. Great.
I'm not sure how to share the whole screen. I can share.
Do you have the screen that says which one you want to share?
Yeah, it just gives me an option between the Chrome and the VS Code. Okay, I will just share it first, the Chrome and then the
okay.
VS Code. Do you see the browser window? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So our task was to link up Firebase to the app, and Firebase can do a lot of things, provide authentication, cloud functions, real-time database, cloud file store, etc., etc. In our case, we needed to create a database in Firebase and connect it to our app. So if we head over to the Cloud File Store section and hit start collection and call it counters. And go with an auto ID and give it value. We can immediately see how our app, in our app, that number gets rendered. Now, if in the app we start clicking our add button, and if we flip over to our database, we can see that those numbers get displayed in our counters collection as well. So how was this implemented? I need to go to my VS Code. Okay, so do you see my VS Code now?
Yes, all good.
Okay, so to subscribe to data in a Firestore database, we first needed to add a few updates to the Firebase.js file. In there was already some initial setup done. All Firebase configuration details were stored. What was missing is a reference to the database. We got it by calling the file store method on the Firebase object and storing it in a variable and exporting that variable so that we could access it in our app. Next, in the app.js file, we instantiate our counter component, and in the actual counter component, we did a few things. So we imported DB from the Firebase file along with the useState fragment and use collection data. Next, inside the component, we created an element of state to track and store counter value, and we defaulted that to 1. We also needed to make our add button let Firebase know what we'd like to add to our database and where we'd like to put it. So we attached an on-click event listener for our button, and we have it call a handle click handler, which at first increments the counter and sets it into local state. And also what it does is it adds data to the cloud file store, to our counters collection. So to do that, we first get a reference to our counters collection, and then we run an add method to add the data. And then with the use collection data hook, we listen to the data in the real time. So we simply pass a query which asks for our collection of counters. And the second argument is basically an object of optional customizations. We used ID field, which takes just in the collection ID. And then we get back everything we need, including data. And finally, we here I just did a bit of a sorting because the other pair asked us to arrange the data in an ascending or descending order. So yeah, and then we just load the data in a list and get the items appear on the page. And this is basically it.
So good. It's a really, really great explanation, Katya, honestly. I was thinking in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just adding Firestore. Okay, there's not going to be much, but this was super, super clear. And yeah, really, really good. Does anyone have any questions for Katya in regard to this this demo? For me, I just had a question. I haven't dealt with React Firebase hooks in a while.
Yeah.
The add method, does that come from Firebase hooks, or because I know before when I was it doesn't. It's just Firebase API.
Yeah.
Okay.
The hook itself is the use collection data.
Okay.
And it's basically here to simplify the process of setting up snapshot listeners.
Yeah, that makes it so much easier. Yeah, I remember like it used to be a little more involved maybe to create documents in the collections. Like we have to like set it and then everything. And so this add method may be new but it's anyway, it's really, I think it's really helpful and intuitive.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Sorry, Julia, I'm taking
No, it's okay. But thank you for the really real demo. That was great. Yeah, so if no one has another question, then we could move on to another team. Who wants to share a screen and show us the code?
I'll share. That was a great demo, Katya. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So our issue, we had to work on, I don't know this thing. Okay. We had to work on creating two views. One is add item and then view list, and then create two buttons where we can be able to like just get them by just clicking each each button. So let me also share the code. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So so we first created three components. One is add view, and so we just added some header just to show the view, and then we created this list view also, which also has some header, and then the navigation, which has two nav link, the one to go to the add view, and then the list view component. And then we have also the app .js, which we had to first do the React router DOM, import the dependency. I hope that's how they call it. And then so that we can be able to go in those two views. So, and then we put the navigation at the bottom because that's what the issue was asking us. And then we used also CSS to style the components, especially the navigation, so that it can be at the bottom. Yeah, and that's it. If you have any question, or maybe Chinemi has something to add, yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cynthia, thank you so much. I just add that we decided to use Nav Links because the action points said once one link is clicked, it should be in bold styling. So we use the active class name property. So whenever that link is clicked, it would affect that styling on it. And I think that just about sums up everything we did this week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great. This was also very good for me. Exact appointment. Great. So if no one has another question or something to add, we could start with our learning module about code review.
Yes. I just wanted to ask for either Cynthia or Shanemi, did either of you have experience with React Router before this?
Yeah, Chinemi.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it's useful. I remember when I first learned it, it was something that I was like, oh, React Router. Okay, I know I'll have to learn that sometime down the road, and then once you do learn it, it's like, oh, I should have been using this all along because it's really helpful to. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions or comments, I am going to start the learning module this week. So yeah, I think, wait one second. Sometimes I can't multitask and continue talking. So just a general high level overview of these weeks again. So last week we had a learning module on Git and GitHub that Golfo presented. And then this week we have a learning module about code reviews. And then we have a few more over the course of the next 6 or 7 weeks. But now each week is going to be a little bit offset. So we have a learning module this week, and then the week after we'll have what's called a retro. So it's a bit more involved of shout outs from the week before, what went really well, what could be improved, what what are some things that we can take action on for the weeks going forward and whatnot. And then, so it'll be, if it's not a learning module week, it'll be a retrospective week, if that makes sense. So without further ado, I am going to present, but if I go next, can you see the next screens? Okay, cool. So here we go. Without further ado, code reviews, a la Collab Lab. So in this learning module, we're going to go through these 6 little sections. What is a code review? The code review cycle overall, how not to just write good code reviews, but actually great code reviews that are really helpful and in-depth. How can I help others who are reading this? How can I help others review my code? So whether that's you from the person making the pull request or the person suggesting different changes in the code review, how can I make myself understood in that regard? How can I review others' code? And lastly, exploring code in GitHub. So to start off, when we're asking ourselves, what is a code review? Instead of it being something that's like a test or an evaluation of our work, it's really helpful to think of it as a sort of conversation about your code, and less of a, here's my code, okay, I'm nervous about what people have to say to it, or like about it, or what I've done wrong with it. It's more just okay, this is what I've presented. Let's see what my team has to say in terms of better suggestions or things that we can do differently to make it overall more effective, the code itself, and then also our work as a team. So from that, I'm just going to move my screen. From that view of it being like a conversation, it's just one of the best spaces to like share the knowledge you have and then also learn from others. And sharing knowledge that you have doesn't just mean like, if you're more advanced, this is how you share your knowledge, but it also just means if you have another perspective on something that maybe the other person hadn't thought of, you can just throw that out there and as a sort of suggestion, and as a possible way to be able to share what you know in the context of this code conversation with your teammates. Code reviews are a space for collaboration as well. So again, you share your work, people can ask questions, you can ask questions about what they're asking questions about, and on and on. It helps you improve as a developer because you're getting all of these outside perspectives, outside questions or opportunities to clarify the code that you do write. And it helps your team by decentralizing knowledge, meaning that someone doesn't just create the code and then never talk about it again. Someone writes the code, and then everyone on the team can see what's going on and see why this is being written, and learning at the same time better practices or a more high level view of where the team is going, where the project is going. Aside from that, it also helps share responsibility. So just as in the same way that it's not someone just writing it and sending it off and then end of the story, it's also a way for the team to be able to collaborate and share the responsibility of it, so that if you do see something that maybe your teammate hadn't thought of before, you can just put it out there like, okay, could we maybe think about doing it like this? And then again, improving the project and the overall code base quality as you go. And also, if anyone has any questions during this, please feel free to interrupt me whenever. I'm definitely happy to answer any questions as we go. So when we're looking at the big idea of the code review cycle, I guess if you hadn't experienced this before last week, you experienced it last week, But the general cycle is that when your code is written and you're ready to enter the code review cycle, you open a pull request in GitHub. And this is from a branch that you've created off of the main branch. And so once you're ready to push that into the code review process, you open a pull request on GitHub, you enter your description of everything, what you're changing, how to test it and whatnot. And then the next step is to receive feedback. And so that's feedback from your teammates. Again, you've all experienced this last week, getting feedback from your teammates in terms of things that could be improved, questions about why you've added certain things over another, and that kind of thing. And so when you get that, those changes to be made or those outside perspectives, you can go back and make changes to that first pull request that you've opened. And so again, this area here of like receiving feedback, making changes, receiving feedback and making changes, that's kind of the sweet spot of the code review cycle. We're really in here until we're able to merge. And so every time that we're receiving feedback and making changes, we're really improving the code quality. And we know that each time it's getting better and better, and then until it's officially ready to be merged into the main project, into the main branch. And I was going to say something, but I forgot. Maybe I'll come back, or maybe I'll remember it after. So continuing off of that, when we're thinking about not just writing good code reviews or average code reviews, but like really what makes a great code review? Like how can we really be conscious of helping our teammates improve as best as they can, while at the same time helping our team improve as well, just by virtue of that individual improving based on the feedback that we give in a code review. So number one here is that in general, we shouldn't focus on stylistic changes. We have tools for that, like Prettier, ESLint, and type checkers, which are basically just programs that you can add to your code editor that basically whenever you click save on a file, it just automatically formats them and you're good to go. You don't even really have to think about that and just not even have to have that taking up any space in your brain. This A through D here, just in terms of like little tiny things that can be pointed out, which are, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a time and a place for that, but in code reviews, we want to focus more generally on bigger ideas that can kind of move the process forward in a more quality improvement kind of way. So how you can pay attention to making a great code review is that you can actually try out the feature locally in your own environment. It's really easy to go through the code review and just like, oh, like read the code and okay, yeah, I understand what they're going to do. I can imagine that that'll do that when you run it locally. But there's really a difference between just reading through the code and then actually seeing it on your screen and interacting with it on the UI and like actually pressing buttons and experiencing that the buttons go where they're supposed to go and looking at the code and saying, oh, wait, this looks like it should be doing this, but then in my local environment, it's doing this. So then that can also be a way for you to add your comment of like, I think maybe you're trying to do this, but it's ending up working like this or that kind of thing. Number 3 is, will you understand this code a month from now? So if you're looking at the code and it's something's maybe confusing to you in the moment and you don't really think about it and you're like, well, it's confusing, it's not really clear, I'll just go on. They probably know what they're doing. That's a good opportunity to highlight it and ask a question. Be like, hey, can you maybe explain this a little bit more to me? Like, what is this code doing? And then by opening that dialogue, you'll be able to possibly come to a solution where the code could be written in a easier to understand way, and we'll just as a result will improve the quality of the code base as a whole. Number 4, 5, and 6, just in general, being defaulting to praise and approval you know, giving your teammates the benefit of the doubt, you know, not nitpicking and not like really actively looking for errors. We want our code to be correct, but we don't want to just be like, well, I could do it this way, or like, you know, that kind of thing. We want to remember that we're working as a team, and the most important thing is to be kind and I would say empathetic here. But yeah. Number 7, you help others understand your changes. So that's when you're making your code review requests or suggestions. It's not just, you're not throwing it out there. It's really you're trying your best to communicate as well as you can. 8 and 9, try to answer all the questions. So, well, actually, I think this is for if you were to be, well, maybe if you have questions and you're trying to answer the questions. I'm not sure about this one, but the last one is take your time. So instead of just rushing through it, and then again, as we said, with the testing it locally, just like conceptualizing it in your head and thinking, okay, this line does this, so it should do this. Take your time and really go through line by line. I know that it's, for me, when I'm doing code reviews, it's so easy to just scroll through, maybe add one comment there, here or there. But then when you really take your time and you understand what each line is doing, it really helps like just get so much of a deeper overview of what's going on and what the general direction of the project is going in. This is going more deeply into testing the code locally. So again, it gives you confidence that what you're reading in the code is actually working in production, or I mean in development. It also helps you find things that you wouldn't just from a skim, like just from going through it. We've talked about all of this, so I'm not going to go too deep into this again. The third point is don't be tempted to just skip it, skip around and go on to the next thing. This LGTM abbreviation or acronym, stands for looks good to me and just going. So looks good to me and you didn't really go through it. It's tempting to do so, but it's probably better to just really take your time, really set a timer for yourself, and just go through line by line and really try to understand what's going on. Normally, the PRs will include instructions on how to run the code and test it. We have that in our PR templates. And then if you're not sure how to do something or to run something, ask questions. And like, again, ask any questions on the PR itself. Get some feedback from your team, and then go forth from there. This slide, I'm just checking on time. How can I help others review my code? So again, we have this in our PR templates, but adding a meaningful PR description, what you're changing, what your code does, what you're aiming to do, how to test it locally, really being as detailed as possible. I think I was talking to Katya this week and she was like, I feel like I wrote a huge long description or like a novel, and it can really feel like that, honestly. It can totally feel that when we're writing our PR descriptions, it's really long and like, we're like, okay, do we even need to write this? I mean, people are just gonna read my code, but it really does help to get all that context in there so that when people are looking at the PR, they really understand what is going on and what your perspective is. Meaningful commit messages. So when you make a commit, try to be as descriptive as you can, but in a short space, because commit messages can't be super long. So trying to really choose your words as best as possible to capture what you've done in a certain bit of code. Self-review your code. So explain why you did what you did. This can be in the PR description, and really try to explain it to yourself. And if you find yourself, it's difficult to explain it to yourself, that's a really good indicator that you could probably be more clear on it. And I know I do this all the time. If I can't really like write, like explain or write this, like the problem that I'm solving, I know that I have to really go back and understand it until I can actually no problem, explain the problem and explain the solution. And then lastly, we have great screen capturing tools at our disposal. I use Loom so much. It's basically a desktop extension that, yeah, it can be a desktop extension, but it can also be a Chrome browser extension where you just record like a screen recording, or I'm sorry, you just have a recording of your screen. So if you're doing something in your app and you're like explaining what you do, that can be really great for demoing and for putting into your PRs. Sketch, I don't know what it is, but I can share these after if you want to check them out. And then Zappy, I'm also not sure what it is, but it's from something from Zapier, so you know that it's definitely productive and handy. And so when we're looking, well, I think we're going to wrap up here. When we're exploring code in GitHub, and again, I know that it can be a little bit intimidating when you're first dealing with GitHub, especially in a more collaborative team environment than just maybe pushing up to your own projects. There's a lot of things that we can kind of look at when we're in someone's PR. The first thing we want to go and look at is the files changed, and that'll show us exactly what's been changed, exactly what the PR is changing in the code, and what we're going to be either approving or getting more information on. So here, I think it's saying that when there's a lot of changes and whatnot, it's difficult to look at everything all at once. So what we can do is we can drop down from here the changes from one commit. We can look at the changes from each commit rather than looking at them all at once. And then as you're looking through each commit, you can navigate back and forth. I typically try to just look at it all at once and just scroll down. And then as you scroll down, you can click on viewed, and then it just actually hides everything that you've already viewed so that you don't have it in your kind of line of vision. But yeah, what I can do also is I'll share a Loom screen recording of me like going through like a pull request and just like doing the different things that could be done, because I think that could be helpful. I know it was helpful for me when I first saw it actually demoed, and so I'll definitely share that in the Slack channel. And so we want to open it up a little bit for the devs here. We don't have too much more time, and we want to get through the issues and whatnot. But how did people feel this past week about doing code reviews? Like, had it been your first time, or had you done it before? Or we'd love to like hear your thoughts on that. Anyone?
For me, it was my first time. So I think I didn't actually pay attention, like go through everything, which is bad, but I hope that I will do this week. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the general temptation for anyone is just to, okay, like I look through it, I have a general idea of what's going on, but like and even I really have to stop myself and say, okay, I think I mentioned before, just setting myself a timer. I'm not going to be distracted by anything else just for like the next 20 minutes of just like going through and making sure I understand what someone has written. It's difficult. I think it's difficult, but you know, Cynthia, it's your first time, and I think maybe for others on the team, it's the first time as well. And so that it's just the beginning of the story. So there's so much room to improve and just like really get just get more comfortable with it. And so yeah. How did everyone else feel? Did anyone else feel any certain way about code reviews, or was there anything confusing about it?
It was also my first time. It wasn't too complicated, but I guess I think both teams just need to suggest changes in the scope of the task. This was my main lesson, my main takeaway.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think that can best be achieved, I think, really is by sitting down and trying to go through it, and then really, because and this is also coming from me as well. I know for me, it's like, oh, I mean, I don't know what to add, or like, I don't know if I could add any other questions that would seem like it would change anything about this. But really, everyone's perspective is super unique. And so even if it's something that you're like, well, I mean, I don't know if this will be helpful, but here's what I think about this, even just having that, it's really great for, yeah, for that. I keep saying this, but that outside perspective.
Yeah, and since I did the code review on both teams, I have to say that the pull requests were very well written, and also the comments from your code review were good. There were some great suggestions to the other group's code, so you did great the first week.
Good work, everyone. Good work.
And I'm also not sure if we did lose Ibrahim for a long time.
Oh, is Ibrahim here? Did he maybe drop off?
Yeah, he said he had network issues, so I don't think he was able to join.
Okay. Okay. Well, oh yes. Okay, seeing that now. Okay, well, we can, he can also look at the recording of this as well. Okay, that's all from me, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me speak for so long.
Okay, then let's go on to the issues for the upcoming week. I will share my screen. Great. So the first issue would be, as a user, I want to set up a new shopping list so I can start tracking purchased items. A shopping list consists of a set of items associated with a user's token. Creating a new list consists of the following sequence. Generate a new unique token. Save the token to the local storage and show the user the list view. The following script should be used to generate the suitable token. This, you can already find it in your code. And the acceptance criteria for this one would be for users who do not really have a token or list, a button or link exists on the home screen that allows them to create a new list. Clicking the button or the link generates a new token and saves it to the local storage. Once the token has been created and saved, the user is redirected to the list view. For users who do have a token already saved in the local storage, they should be shown or redirected to the list view. Another issue would be, as a user, I want to add a new item to my shopping list so I can start recording purchases. A shopping list item consists of the following data points. Name of the item, how soon are you likely to buy it again? Soon in the next 7 days, kind of soon in the next 14 days, or not soon in the next 30 days. And the last purchase date. Acceptance criteria for this one. User is presented with a form that allows them to enter the name of the item and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy it again. Soon, kind of soon, or not soon. When the user submits the form, the item is saved to the database associated with the user's token. Along with the item name, an integer corresponding to the estimated number of days until next purchase is saved. 7 for soon, 14 for kind of soon, and 30 for not soon. The last purchase date should be set to null initially. In addition, you can create an item without purchasing it. Item names should be displayed as a simple unordered list on the list view after they are added. Yes, are there any questions about this one?
And again, maybe you don't have questions now just because it takes maybe some time to understand what's going on and like what you'll need to do. So if you do have questions later, we are always available to answer them in Slack.
Okay, so if there are no questions, then the pairs for next week would be the first pair would be Jeremy and Katja, and another pair would be Ibrahim and Cynthia. Who wants to pick which issue? Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Yeah, if anyone sees something that's interesting for them, feel free to grab it. Otherwise, if it's easier, we can just assign each issue. I think that's what we did last time. It maybe was a little easier just to assign. Okay, so let's do it. Let's assign. So we'll do Shinemi and Katya can do issue 3, if that works. And we'll add this in Slack as well. And then Ibrahim and Cynthia can do issue 4. And we'll also have those personalized threads for you to communicate on. And I
Awesome,
think,
thank you.
Great.
yeah. Does anyone have any questions about like anything else? I mean, it doesn't have to be in regard to this particular, like these issues. Anything? Well, definitely.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when we're creating branches for this week, how are we going to name them? Because there are specific name that we have to give them, or we continue with the branches we created last week.
That's a great question. So these, you're going to actually be creating new branches. So the branches that you've already merged from last week, those can actually be deleted because basically when we're looking at it, so kind of that back to that code review cycle or whatnot, when so this is the main branch, and then you're branching off with your feature that you're building. And then as soon as it's merged into the main branch again, it's like it doesn't exist anymore. It's part of the main branch. And so now we just have this straight line as the main branch. Issues 1 and 2 were already merged in. And so now issues 3 and 4 will be branched off respectively. And then at the end of the week, they'll be merged again into the main branch. Does that answer your question, Cynthia?
Yes.
So yeah, so those branches will, I think it's the initials of both teammates, and then kind of like a descriptive,
For example, you could
title.
choose creating token, or what is the other one? Yeah, we're creating the shopping list.
Yeah, but yeah, we can also write that in Slack as well, just to give you an idea of what those can be.
Also, don't forget to pull the changes from the main branch.
Yeah, totally.
Good idea. So yeah, when you start working on the project again, be sure to pull the changes from GitHub. So you want to run a git pull on your in your code editor in the terminal you're using.
Yeah, check out if you're in the main branch, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To be sure to be in the main branch again, and from this to create a new branch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good call, Katya. Okay. Any other questions? Finally. All right, I think we're good. Well, we will be in Slack, everyone. I'm going to post again, just kind of like expectations and reminders about how everyone can help everyone be the best team that we can be. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the collaboration and yeah, all the great work. So thank you everyone for your time, and we will see you next week and also in Slack.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.